Hey church family, I have shared with some of you before what I believe is one of the quickest ways of getting someone who's never read the Bible to quote the Bible. And I'll tell you what it is. This is a secret that'll work every single time. All you need to do is make this statement about something that someone does or about something that someone believes. Just say these three words and watch what happens. The three words are, "That's a sin." And say those three words, and you'll see what happens. You'll be amazed. Now, please understand, I'm suggesting that you say this graciously, not with condemning harshness. Just make this statement in reference to something that somebody does, or when it comes to something that someone believes, you can actually shorten it to just two words. You can say, "That's wrong." And I can almost guarantee that your friend, who may not know any other part of the Bible, will quote to you Matthew 7 and verse 1, which says what? It says, "Judge not, lest ye be judged." People who've never been inside a church, people who've never used the Bible for anything other than to hold down a coffee table to keep it from floating away, somehow know this verse. They may not know where to find the verse in the Bible. They may have no idea at all that they're quoting it out of context. But if you dare to criticize anything that someone does or anything that someone believes, if you dare to say that is absolutely wrong or that is sin, even if you say it graciously, you may be labeled a bigot or narrow-minded. Or maybe the worst of all today, you'll be labeled intolerant. How misunderstood is Matthew 7:1? It's misunderstood enough that last year, when I was summoned for jury duty to serve on a jury for a criminal case, when I was being interviewed by the deputy district attorney, he asked me this question. He said, "I understand that you're a pastor. As a pastor, do you think that you can judge someone?" It's a fair question. And to understand what Jesus meant about judgment, we need to look at his words in context. The Bible contains 31,102 verses, but none of them appear in isolation. They all have a context. And to understand any one verse, it helps to look at the verses around it. So let's do that with Jesus' statement in Matthew 7:1. In Matthew 7, verses 1 to 5, we find these words. Jesus said, "Do not judge others, and you will not be judged. For you'll be treated as you treat others. The standard you use in judging is the standard by which you'll be judged. And why worry about a speck in your friend's eye when you have a log in your own? How can you think of saying to your friend, 'Let me help you get rid of that speck in your eye,' when you can't see past the log in your own eye? Hypocrite, first get rid of the log in your own eye, then you'll be able to see well enough to deal with the speck in your friend's eye." When we read Matthew 7:1 in context, it becomes clear that Jesus is not making a blanket command that as his followers, we should never judge anything or anyone. What he is saying is that we shouldn't judge hypocritically. We shouldn't judge people with a standard that we would not want to see applied to ourselves. And the reason is that the standard by which you judge other people is going to be used for you. Again, thinking about context, if you go down a few verses further to Matthew 7:15, you'll see that Jesus says, "Beware of false prophets." Now, how do you recognize a false prophet? The only way is to make some kind of judgment of somebody's behavior and how it corresponds to their beliefs. That's the kind of judgment that we have to make. Read on a little further to Matthew 18. In verse 15, we see that Jesus says, "If another believer sins against you, go privately and point out the offense." Well, what's a sin? And how do we know? Only by making some kind of judgment that believers are supposed to make regarding other believers in order to hold one another accountable. And certainly, this needs to be done humbly and not hypocritically. All of which is to say that when it comes to the issue of judging, don't be intimidated by the misuse of "judge not lest ye be judged" in Matthew 7, but instead let it drive you to study the Scriptures for yourself in order to see all that they have to say about judging. And when you do that, you'll discover that the same one who said, "Judge not, lest ye be judged," in Matthew 7, also said in John 7, "Do not judge according to appearance, but judge with righteous judgment." I pray that's what each of us would seek to be doing. Amen.